First of all, I'm an open book. I refuse to be caught with my pants down. So I'm like, in any situation.
What situation would that be? Let's go into that a little bit. What situation would that be?
No, just in any situation in general. Just
metaphorical pants.
Metaphorical pants.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another exciting episode of Work Week Podcast. I have here with me always Juan Urrutia to my left, and we are also joined again by Mr. Mike Falabi.
Yo, what up?
Today, we are going to...
Drop my phone, sorry. You probably heard that.
It's all good. Today, we're going to be talking about what does faithfulness look like in a culture or in a generation and in a world where unfaithfulness is so prevalent and so heavily engaged in and sought after. And so just off the top of the dome, what does faithfulness mean to you guys? Like, when you hear the word faithful in your own context, in your own world, what does that mean to you guys?
Take it away, Wani.
I attach it a lot to loyalty. I think it's like giving kind of a part of yourself and really trusting in others. I think, at least for me, I think that's what faithfulness entails, or it can be a part of the definition for it.
Faithfulness, loyalty.
I think faithfulness means to me, and I instantly like cringed when I thought of what it meant to me. I instantly defined it as what it's not. It's like faithfulness means you don't cheat on people, and you're like, but that's not that. That doesn't define something. That's like the opposite of defining something, which is telling. But I think faithfulness, similar to Juan, has to do with your loyalty and like your character is who you are. Faithfulness is not something that you are for one day, but it's like an attribute of somebody that's like their personality. If somebody that's faithful, like a basketball player that stays on the same team for their entire career, it's not in their nature or their character to just jump ship type of thing.
Yeah, I think to me, faithfulness is trustworthiness. I think that's how the Bible defines it. If you look at it as being trustworthy, but I also think more so than that, faith in general and like being faithful or having faith is, well, like, we'll just put it this way. The Bible says that faith is a substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not yet seen. So I think we think of faithfulness or being faithful as like a concept or as like this sort of thing that's been sort of strung together that you can't necessarily put your finger to or touch. But the Bible says that faithfulness or faith is the evidence of things hoped for and the substance or the thing and the evidence of things not yet seen. And so faithfulness for me comes from a place of integrity and character. So it's your character and integrity being worked out of you and it being tangibly seen based on your daily behavior or engagement with people and relationships and stuff like that. So that's what I think of when I think of faithfulness.
Yeah. I think that's good. I think it means a lot of different things to different people. And I think that can get, like, when words don't have like a clear-cut definition to everybody, I think that it can get really messy. Yeah. But going from there, what does it look like to be faithful in like friendships or in different relationships? Like we'll go one by one in like marriage and friendships and all of.
What does it look like to be a faithful friend, Wani?
I mean, I guess a lot of it is just situational and kind of in what circumstance you find yourself in. There's like ways and opportunities for you to kind of like show your faithfulness. Like for a good example would be if someone's talking a mess about your friend or something and you're like, hey, that's my boy. You can't be talking like that. You know, I feel like that could be an instance where you're showing your faithfulness to your friend in a friendship. Another one could be potentially, let's see.
Put bro on the spot like that.
Yeah, I know. Again, but it's a lot of it is just pretty much just situational, and it can look differently to someone. Your way of showing faithfulness could be drastically different to what someone else might think or see. And
it's like such a simple concept. Like it's not a lofty or like overly complicated. Intrinsically, it means to like the definition means to remain loyal and steadfast. Synonyms are to be constant or devoted. Like it's not like we get that on a very like primitive like understanding of what that means. I feel like we overcomplicate it a lot with like, oh, the circumstance or the situation changes, therefore the definition changes. Like, no, it shouldn't. If we're faithful, it shouldn't matter like what's happening in the middle of it.
Yeah, I think it kind of goes back to, well, I think you also even have to define like relationship even. So like, even if we're going to talk about faithfulness or being faithful in a friendship, in a marriage relationship, or in any sort of number of other relationships, there has to be value placed, one, on whatever relationship that is, but also on your desire or on your willingness or on your, we'll call it conviction to be faithful. I think there's a lot of people who have friends and they're not faithful to their friends. They're committed to their friends, right? And if we know anything about commitment, we know that like people are like, oh, if I'm committed, so that means like I'm all in. Well, like people pull out loans every day and they make a commitment to pay those loans on time. Yeah. And some people go delinquent on those loans. So commitments are like one of those things that can kind of ebb and flow. And it's like, oh, well, today I don't feel like doing this. Whereas faithfulness, it's like, no, it's a covenant. It's like I'm choosing, even though everything in me wants to be disloyal, like I'm choosing to be loyal and to be willing and to be not just committed, but in this together. And so I think that's a huge thing I think that we miss culturally, but also in our humanity, where it's like it's like we take terms like being faithful and we sort of dilute them into just merely being a commitment. Yeah.
That's good. This is completely off topic, but I just realized we're wearing the same hat. I feel like it needs to be addressed. It needs to be spoken about.
I want to switch
because I was literally in my closet this morning. I was like, which color doesn't Derek have? And we were in the same one.
I almost wore the New York hat that you gave me, but I realized it's not black; it's blue. So like a navy blue.
Oh well, there you go.
So. Anyway, yeah, but I think it has, like, we have to have an understanding of what faithfulness is, and I feel like people have been allowed to redefine it, but I think it sort of stands alone, and if we lean into like what it actually is, then it starts to also redefine how we approach our friendships and relationships with people, right? If our definition of faithfulness is commitment, then like you can choose to do what you want to do depending on how you feel. But if faithfulness is defined by your character, your integrity, and what the Bible says, then like it's unwavering and unchanging. Like you have beyond a commitment, you have a conviction to a covenant that like I can't break this because we're in this together. So
for sure,
yeah.
Well, where does faithfulness end? When is being faithful start becoming a detriment to a person? If you're being faithful to this friend that dogs you day in and day out, and that isn't faithful to you, like at what point is faithfulness like is there an end to faithfulness and loyalty? Should there be one, or is it just like if I'm ever faithful to somebody, I must always be faithful to that person?
Yeah. Do you want to jump in, or you want me
I think being faithful is like a character kind of thing. It's
for sure.
Like something that you choose to do. Again, it's a choice. It's a personal choice. So I think there are times in which we can choose to not be faithful if we come to our senses when someone's like not being who they said they're going to be or not acting in a way that a faithful friend should. I think it's totally possible for you to just choose to not be faithful to that person anymore.
Yeah, I think what it boils down to is, one, I don't think we should ever stay in anything that's unhealthy.
Yeah.
Stay in anything that's going to be harmful, or anything that's going to like push us to do something that could potentially cause injury to ourselves. And so there are those relationships where you're all in, but on the other side, it seems like they're not. And I think self-awareness is huge. The Bible says that as iron sharpens iron, so shall a friend sharpen a friend. The issue with that is like if you have somebody that's not in it with you, and their definition of, faithfulness is just a pure commitment where it's like, I can kind of come and go as I please. I don't have to really invest in this. And not only do I not have to invest in this, but I'm going to like divest this in that I'm just going to be a taker and not a giver.
Yeah.
I think at that point you sort of have to assess the friendship and be like, listen, like I'm here for you if you need anything. And if there's ever something that like you get into like a situation with like, I'll give you like the shirt off my back, but like, it's not healthy for me to stay in this with you because it's actually detrimental to my life, but I love you, but I'm going to have to, I mean, we talked about it, this last Sunday where like Ray was talking about forgiveness, and he was like, you can forgive somebody and you can still have love for somebody, but that doesn't mean you have to stay in a situation that's hurtful, harmful, or going to be detrimental to you as well. Yeah.
Yeah. He said step one is separating yourself from the person or from the thing that is causing you the trouble, and then taking your time to heal, start a process.
Yeah.
And then be able to come back.
Yeah.
Do you guys feel like in friendships, it's what am I trying to say? Do you feel like in friendships it's standard for friends to be faithful, or is that something that you've had to communicate with friends about, or is that just like a prerequisite of friendship now? I remember like growing up, it just kind of seemed like that was like, yeah, those are my friends. Like but like now we're getting older, especially in like the different kind of circles we find ourselves in, where it's the like social media friends, where it's like, I know these people are friends with me because of the platform that I have or because of the network I have, where it's like there's hierarchies of friends, where it's like I don't expect an Instagram friend to have the same type of like faithfulness to me as you guys do, because it's like they're hierarchies. Like do we even feel like we expect faithfulness in friendships anymore?
I think that it's interesting. It's an interesting conversation, because I feel like today everything has been completely redefined, and I think even getting to a place where it's like faithfulness and being down for people and loving people, like it's also like, what's your definition of love in that regard too? Because you have a lot of acquaintances and people that like if you hit them up, they'll answer a phone call, but it's like if you're in the hospital or if something's happening or if like you need something urgently and immediately, it's like you have like that short list that that you can call.
Yeah, those are different people.
Those are different people. So I think like for me, I think to say a friendship is not just a one-way thing; it's a two-way thing.
For sure.
And so to me, I would classify certain individuals in my life as like acquaintances, and some that are actually friends that I know are my ride or dies. Like and shout out to my cousin Nick, because he watches this thing. But like my cousin Nick, I mean, obviously he's family, but we don't see each other sometimes for like months and even years. During the pandemic, 2 years we didn't see each other. And for him, it's like when we do see each other and when we do hang out, like I know that no matter what the circumstance or situation, he has my back, because there's like this sense of like, it's not about time spent, and it's not about, like communicating in text messages or writing on someone's wall, but it's like who somebody actually is at their core. And when they show up when it matters and it's important. Like we had something in our family, this last year where we had a family member lost a baby, and for you guys, and even for someone that were closest around us, immediately came and lifted us up, because there was this faithfulness, there was this love, and there was this thing that was not just a friendship, but it was like this sort of like this solidified relationship that there wasn't a matter of me having to ask you guys, hey, are you guys going to show up and be there? You were there. And so I think that goes beyond what the world defines as friendship, because I feel like friendship now is kind of like
that's kind of the point that I was trying, like it seems like in the journey of making friends, some of those friends become family. That's just what happens, and those are the people that we expect faithfulness, that we expect when things get hard to come through. But everybody else falls under this tier of, we would just call them, we say the same word, they're both friends, but there's like a very clear line between the two. That doesn't really have like an actual distinction.
But this is the interesting part, is that people that don't believe in God or don't have any sort of faith in God, like they will say that they are completely unaffected when people don't show up for them.
For sure.
Like it's almost like the Tinder of friendships. Like they like just like they have so many friends, and they have so many, like it's like you go on their stories, you go on their pages, and they're like at a different weekend at a different place at a different spot with a bunch of different people. And like the crazy thing is, they'll say that those are their friends, and that if a friend group changes or leaves, that they're unaffected by it. But like you watch and see those people when like they're reaching out to others or when they're by themselves, and like their reaction where it's like, man, I really wish like that someone was here. Like I really wish that someone would have showed up. And like it's I think it's programmed in our DNA and like who God created us to be, where like there is a desire that goes beyond commitment and into being faithful. And into having that communion and that camaraderie and union with people. And that unity with people that like everyone desires, but not everyone wants to admit to, because they're trying to protect themselves. Because if I'm too committed and something happens, then like I can get hurt in the process. And so I think that's where it comes back to like protecting yourself, making sure everyone's on the same page, and like having that faithfulness as the center of it.
I like that. Do we want to go into the controversial questions? Or we want to save that?
Ooh, controversial question.
You want to save that? You want to do it now?
I feel like if we do that, we probably should set it up to like the second. So like we talked about friendships. Like let's talk about like dating, relationships, and marriage now. So like, what is faithfulness? Like you and I are married.
Juan's almost there. I give him 6 to 8 weeks.
Oh,
You and I are married. I just celebrated 9 years in July,
Yeah.
and you recently just had an anniversary.
4 years.
4 years.
Hey.
Juan's single.
Juan is here. I don't know about all that.
No, I'm single. let the record show I am single.
Juan is single, and so, but obviously, as people who have dated and who now are married,
Juan, you've dated?
Yeah,
what is
can you believe
does
it? Oh my
faithfulness
gosh.
in a dating relationship and in a marriage relationship look like?
Yeah. What is faithfulness in a relationship?
Mm.
I feel like at its core, it means the same thing, but there are like nuanced differences. I'll give an example. My sister, my wife, and I were on a phone call last night. My sister lives in New York, so we were just catching up with her. And I said something like intentionally triggering my sister because that's what big brothers do. And so Nia knew I was like hiding a secret from Rennie, my sister, and Nia knew what the secret was, and my sister was like, "Oh well, Nia, you have to tell me what it is because we're sisters." But I was like, "Nah, that's my wife." Like, there's levels to this like faithfulness. So this conversation just reminded me of that because it's like there's levels to faithfulness in friendships, in like even family relationships, and then in like marriage where there's like there's a hierarchy where it's like I'm most faithful to her before anybody else in the world. I'm faithful to my wife. So if it's like you tell me a secret and she tells me a secret, I'm gonna tell your secret before I tell my wife's secret. That's just how that goes. I'm obviously I'm not gonna tell nobody secrets. That's just not my game. But all that to say, that's who I'm most faithful to. So all of the rules that apply for friends are just that much more sacred, and that like it's just that much higher for me in a marriage. That it's like we do life. We're on the same team. That's my teammate. So I can't act like so it has to mean more.
You can't do anything that's detrimental to your team, even though there might be a quote unquote opposing team that's wanting some help with something.
Exactly.
Even though Rennie's not on the opposing team, but like,
no, she's for sure on have you met her?
Rennie, I'm so sorry. But yeah, no, I mean, it kind of goes into like that hierarchy that we understand in our faith being Christians, where it's like you love God and you have God's like the supreme sort of person that we're faithful to, and then everything flows out of that. So it's like God, it's our marriages, it's our family, and then everything else at the back end of it. But for someone who tells all his secrets, what do you think about?
Well, that's I equate it. All right, relax.
Let's hear it, bro.
No, what I was gonna say is the way that I treat relationships in general is with the intentionality of obviously getting married. So I'm like, if my goal is to be married to this person, I'm going to act in faithfulness as if I was, because this is what I want it to be. Like, I feel like what we do now is like, oh, just because we're dating, or even if it doesn't have a title, I can just do whatever I want. And then faithfulness doesn't apply to me because you're not, there's no label to it or anything like that. I'm the complete opposite, where if I jump into something like that, you know, I want to make sure, at least on my end, that I am running things as best as I can and being faithful to who I am, and also faithful to the person that I am considering, you know, having a future with. Is let me ask you guys this question. Is
no, I don't like that face.
Because I'm just curious.
I don't like that face.
Is faithfulness in a dating relationship and in a marriage relationship cutting off all relationships with the opposite sex?
No, all relationships. No.
Like, so then how?
That's not possible.
So how? No, like not with like. Not all relationships. Obviously, you're not going to stop hanging out with your mom. But what I mean to say is like,
can you not have any female friends?
Yes.
No, I don't think.
So how do you navigate that?
I think that it is a landmine for sure. Especially like if you're in a single group of friends, like if there's 7 of y'all and it's 3 girls and 4 guys, and is that 7? 4 or 5? Yeah.
Take your shoe off on your toes.
If you're in a friend, everybody's single, and like the lines get blurred, and we're young, and like that can get messy.
I don't even think it's lines. I think it's just perception in general.
For sure, I'll give you that. It's perception. So then one of them gets into a relationship with somebody else outside of that group. That person So say Juan has a group of friends and then he dates somebody outside of that group. That person that he's dating automatically feels like outside of the circle, regardless of if any lines are crossed. That person's already out of the circle. So Juan has to be that much more intentional to reassure whoever he's dating or married to or whatever, and like setting boundaries with those the friends that are the girls that are friends, like very clear. It can and should be like, hey, real face-to-face conversation. We're friends. I love you as a friend, blah, blah, but this is my wife, girlfriend, whatever. And I'm going to choose her every single time over y'all. If that's a problem, then like that's on y'all. That's not on me.
Kick rocks and
it's gotta be communicated. And everybody, anybody in any type of relationship will tell you the importance of communication. Where it's like, if that's set up front, and you follow that, because the second you say that and then you let one of those girlfriends cross a boundary line and don't like do nothing about it, your girlfriend's gonna be like, you have to do something about this. So not only do you have to communicate it, but you have to like back it up.
And I think that's what it comes down to is like faithfulness has to be like earned and proven, right? So if you're gonna have faith in me and I'm gonna have faith in you, then there's going to have to be things that like you have done in order for me to feel like I have faith in you to be able to be a good friend and vice versa. And I feel like that's even like in dating and marriage relations to what we're talking about, right? So it's like, you don't have to cut off, all relationships with girls, but there's some, I mean, I can share this story because I don't know this person anymore. But like when I first started dating Sarah, like it was like literally like week 2.
That's not the person you don't know. That's your wife.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I do know. So there's another one coming in the story. And so like maybe like 2 weeks into us dating, I get this random phone call while I was at Sarah's house and we were hanging out, and it was this girl that was inviting me or calling to see if I was going to like this like Halloween party that was being hosted at some other person's house in another city. And I'm like, oh, like no, like first of all, I didn't even know this was happening. Secondly, like I wouldn't ever go. Like I'm here. And so this girl proceeds to say, well, like I miss you and I like wish you were here, and like starts like doing all this stuff on the phone. And I just like I had like my anxiety was at like a 10 when this girl was saying this to me, because I'm like, I'm sitting with my girlfriend.
Was it on speaker?
No, but like it was like it must have been like, you could visibly see that I was uncomfortable. And so I just like rushed. I was like, I gotta go. And I hung up the phone. And then Sarah's like, who was that? And I was like,
that's the moment. So what went through your head in that moment when she's like, who was that? In that
moment, I was like, I just need to be honest, because I was like, this will come back to bite me in the butt. So I was like, it's this girl. She said this, that, and the other thing. And Sarah instantly was heated. And the thing that's funny was in that moment, I was like, I thought that I had done like the right thing.
For sure.
But she was like, all right, so you're just going to let her say that stuff to you and like completely disregard my feelings for how I might feel that another girl is like being flirtatious with my boyfriend. So I did the only thing that I knew how to. I picked the phone back up and I called this girl and I said to her, I was like, hey, I just want you to know that like you were saying all this stuff. I'm hanging out with my girlfriend right now. She didn't really appreciate it, and neither did I. I would appreciate if you never like called me back and like had that sort of conversation with me ever again. And then she starts backpedaling. She's like, well, I meant to say like everyone here misses you. And like I was like, no, listen, like I heard what you said. Okay, like just don't do it again.
All
and then
good.
That was it.
See you later.
So I do think that there are times and there are circumstances, situations, like to your point, if people can understand and it's a friendship and it's like this understanding, like this now is my person. Like obviously, but to your point, like it is definitely something that has to be
for sure
navigated.
Yeah, I think you guys were kind of spot on when you said that I reveal all my secrets. First of all, I'm an open book. I refuse to be caught with my pants down. So I'm like, in any situation.
What situation would that be? Let's go into that a little bit. What situation would that be?
No, just in any situation in general. Just
metaphorical
like
pants.
Metaphorical pants.
This guy. Sorry, Alejandro.
I'm sorry. I keep incriminating myself.
You sure do.
But on a perception step, and again, I say this I think I've said it in like 2 podcasts already, but the perception of like not allowing yourself to be in a situation where you'd be in trouble is why I'm so open with like what I am doing and what is happening, so that hey, like I had nothing to do with this. This is the truth about it, and that's it. That's that. Yeah.
That's it. And perception is tricky. Because people will think whatever they think whenever they want to think.
No matter why.
No matter what
yeah.
you do,
Yeah.
people will have a perception.
Yeah.
And it's important for us to not do things that would give people the impression that we are a way that we're not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But at what point are you ruling your life
No fakery.
around just like people's perception of you? Like that's not healthy either.
Yeah.
So it's this like interesting balance of like, I know who I am.
Mm-hmm.
I want people to know me as who I am, but I also don't want to live for the approval or for everybody around me to think I am who.
It's a fine line.
For
so
sure.
the people that are around me know me for who I am and what I do.
Yeah.
Everyone else, I could care less.
But
to be
I think it's
completely
like,
honest.
it kind of goes back to like kind of what Juan was saying though. But kind of let's take it a step further. It's not just trying to do the right thing to avoid being incriminated by something, right? But it's also just doing the right thing because it goes back to again like let's redefine. Faithfulness isn't just simply being faithful because you don't want to be caught with what Juan said, and
Metaphorical
and
Metaphorical
because
pain.
because you don't want to be caught, but also because like you don't want to get in trouble. But it's like because no, this is who I am.
Yeah.
And so I think like for me, it's like you could either tell people who you are or you can just show them who you are by how you live your life.
Yeah.
And then and if you do that, like you don't have to tell anybody. They'll tell you who you are based on how you're living your life. And so I think that there's people that I've never even had conversations with, but they've seen me from afar. They've been around long enough. And, you know, anytime things do come up and stuff comes up where people might be saying things about me or saying things about Sarah, they'll be like, no, that's not Derek. That's not what he does. And like, I've had like 2-minute conversations with most of these folks. But I think it's like when it's at your core of who you are and it's like goes beyond wanting to not be incriminated, but it's like, no, this is who I am. Then like that's what faithfulness looks like. Yeah,
That's good.
It's the hot take. I've been waiting all day for this one.
Oh, man.
All right, ready?
Let's hear it. I don't have one today.
Is a cucumber a fruit or a vegetable?
Oh, God.
Is a cucumber? There's like rules for.
Is a cucumber a fruit or a vegetable?
I'm gonna say it's a fruit
It's a
because it wouldn't be a hot take if it was a vegetable because everybody assumes it's a vegetable.
Is
It's
it
a
a
fruit.
fruit? Is it a fruit?
Dude, I worked.
What did I say? I said fruit, right?
I work at a juice bar.
You said a fruit.
No, yeah, that's what I meant. Fruit.
I work for a juice bar.
And what is that? Does that mean you're a biologist also?
It means I have firsthand experience.
With what?
With cucumbers.
So do I. I've cut a cucumber before. I have the same amount of experience.
That's good.
Okay, so it
I
is
sell
in
cucumbers.
fact a fruit. I looked it up before
I
today.
told you.
I said the same thing as
Wait,
you.
can I be
Juan.
real? Can I be real? I was surprised. I thought it was a vegetable.
Nah.
What were you Googling to come up with?
Literally, I was sitting on my couch.
With a zucchini.
No, I was sitting on my couch the other day and I was watching like the Food Network. And this guy was like, "Oh, this like beautiful like fruit known as like the cucumber." I was like, "The cucumber is a fruit?"
There you go.
But I think what's mixed me up though is because you turn cucumbers into pickles.
Yeah, we have
I
to
mean,
pick. It's a process of
So
pickling.
pickles are just pickled fruit.
Yeah.
That's gross.
But in my mind,
Pickles are
I'm
just
thinking like that's a
disgusting.
You don't
that's
like
like a
pickles?
vegetable.
That's a
Pickles
hot
are
take.
gross.
They're so good.
Pickles are fire,
Sarah
bro.
hates pickles.
Pickles are gross.
Is that your hot take?
On a
Pickles are gross.
cold
Do you have
or
a
on
hot
a-
take, Wani?
Do I have one? No, I don't.
No, what about you?
My hot take is that Kevin Durant was never planning on leaving the Brooklyn Nets.
Oh, bro, did you see Pat Bev's comment towards him? He was like, because you did this, there's people who don't have jobs in the NBA because they got like released because
I
people
believe
were
it.
getting
We're
ready.
getting ready to move
Yeah.
move mountains for KD. I believe it.
And then KD hashtagged KD's fault.
Oh man.
Durant said that?
He trolled him.
Yeah,
It
I
was
believe
bad.
it.
Yeah, it was bad. Anyway, so faithfulness. Let's talk about the
controversial
Oh yeah.
question.
These are also hot takes. All right, so we're just gonna go straight into it. This is if you got little teeny boppers out there, little kids watching
Cover their
this,
ears.
cover their ears.
earmuffs.
First one right off the bat is watching porn considered being unfaithful to in your relationship.
Why are you looking at me
I don't
for?
know.
Look at each other.
All right, I'll answer it, I guess. So
No, I don't want to hear your answer. I want to hear Juan's
Oh,
answer.
me and Derek talk about this all the time.
Okay,
we talk about this
is
all
what
the time.
let's you know what?
course,
No,
it is
hold on. Let's go back. Is watching porn considered cheating on your significant other?
absolutely.
Okay. We're on
The
the
Bible
same page.
says that, and so the Old Testament says that you shall not commit adultery is in the 10 commandments. Jesus comes on the scene and he comes in, he says, I haven't come to abolish the law, but I've come to fulfill the law. And he says, if you've even looked at a woman lustfully, you've committed adultery in your own heart. And what does adultery mean? Adultery means, like, if we're talking about faithfulness, it means a breaking of your covenant agreement and breaking of a union that you have with that individual or with God himself. And so you're literally breaking faithfulness and trading it for being unfaithful. And so to me, it's like, if you're looking at pornography, if you're in a relationship, but even outside of being in a relationship, right? For the believer, if you're looking at pornography, you are effectively committing adultery on a covenant that you made with God to not do that. So you're still being unfaithful. So yeah, I think absolutely. Yeah. And we can go into like the statistics and all the stuff about it. Like, I did a whole like 30-page thesis paper when I was in college on the effects of pornography on the brain. But like when you, and it's so addicting that when you look at it, it releases dopamine in your brain that you get the same high that you would get as doing like hard illicit drugs. And so that's why people have such a tough time like breaking away from it. So they become like addicted to this stuff. And as a result, it just completely obliterates marriages, relationships, and everything else. So
yeah. Juan, anything? I mean, I don't know how much.
Yeah, I mean, I read that paper. Great paper.
You read Derek's paper?
Of course, bro. I was like, bro, I gotta know. And I also took like way too many human sexuality classes in college too.
There's no such thing as too many.
Yeah,
I took.
That's why
beyond the requirement.
My electives, human sexuality,
all of them. No, yeah, I agree. I mean, it gets to a point where you can't even. You know, you can't even function as a person.
For sure.
And even like in the context of marriage, I have to say this before I say stuff like this, but in the context of marriage, even like it could even affect like how, you know, even you, I would say, perform like when you're being intimate with your
or even perceive your other person,
or even perceive your other person as well.
Yeah.
So again, it's just there's so much. It's more detrimental. To anything.
But I think what we're talking about, dude, it's like at the heart of this today. Like if there's like a takeaway, it's really like the dulling or the desensitizing and also like just like diluting what faithfulness means, right? So it's like at its core, like I talked about, like you have to define a relationship, but then even like the definition of love, because they all like sort of intertwine. So now it's like sex is perceived as just an act. It's just something I do. There's no like faithfulness isn't attached to it. Love isn't attached to it. Not even liking a person is attached to it. It's just like, hey, you have this, I have that. Let's get together and like let's like enjoy this thing. Like it's not like this. It's not like this intimacy and this faithfulness and this love and romance like God had intended to be. And so it's this completely diluting of all this stuff. And so that's why I think there is a huge disparity between people being faithful and people being unfaithful, and people have a tendency to learn to unfaithfulness, because I think it goes back to this. It's all about me. Yeah. So like I want to do what I want to do, and like if it doesn't work out, like I'm gone. Peace out. See you later. And so I think that's why we live in a culture where unfaithfulness is so prevalent. Yeah. That's good. Controversial.
Very toxic.
Yeah. I mean, I want to push that even further. The whole like porn, cheating. The Bible talks about like when it's okay to get a divorce, and like adultery is one of those. Are we saying that that's the like then watching porn is justification to divorce your spouse?
I think if
like,
it's
but like we're talking about like a one, like I'm playing not devil's advocate. I'm like if we're gonna say that that's what if we're gonna say that that's what that is, are we willing to also say that? Because I mean,
I think that we as humans, but also God, the Bible says that his ways and his thoughts are higher than ours. And I think he has also made us to be dynamic and to use the brains and the wisdom that he's given us. I think that there's a difference between a one-off situation and a habitual like addiction situation.
For sure.
To me, in any marriage, and you know this, like if you've made a mistake, like, and you apologize, even in having that apology and stepping into being faithful to your spouse, you're saying, I'm going to try my very best and like to never do whatever it was that I did again. Like whether it's looking at porn or even just like, I didn't take out the trash or I didn't like help you take care of the kids today or whatever, you know, Like, I'm going to try my very best to not do that again. But I think the habitual, like, I'm sorry, you do it again. I'm sorry, you do it again. Like, that's like the opposite of being faithful. Like, you are literally not being trustworthy. You are literally not being honest. You are not being loyal to your word or to me. So to me, I think if it's a habitual thing, like, definitely, like, I think that God would definitely not, God definitely wouldn't have anything opposing to say to that. But at the same time, though, like, I know plenty of people who've been married who, like, that's been their story and God has redeemed it and God has given them grace. I think it is a case-by-case basis as it pertains to that, because there are some people, and, like, I'm just going to be honest about this and people are going to be pissed about it, but, like, there are some people that are just looking to get out of their marriage. And so it's like, if it happens one time, like, oh, there it is, I'm out of here, because they didn't have any sort of communication or faithfulness to begin with. It was like, we just got into this because we were young, or because we didn't know what we were doing, or because my friends were doing it, and they're Christian, and so, like, I just need an out. Oh, he looked at it one time. Okay, see ya. We're out of here. And that's not to say, again, that, like, if there's other extenuating circumstances that, like, you can use wisdom and navigate that. But I've known plenty of people that are just looking for a reason to dip out.
For sure.
Yeah.
This is, like, off topic in the big topic, but kind of what we're talking about now. And yeah, one of the questions is kind of in there. Soul ties. That is something that is talked about in every youth group in America. But from what I've studied, I haven't found anything concrete. Maybe, I mean, I'm not like a theologian or anything, but that's something, and for anybody that doesn't know, it's like, if you have been intimate with a person, you have this, like, connection, spiritual connection. You've given a piece of yourself to that person that you can never get back. That's kind of the general concept that is talked about. Is that like that feels like something that makes sense, but isn't, that I haven't found scripture that just directly
I think, do you want to take this?
No, I want to hear what you have to say about
No, I think so. Like, I was just talking about this today. We were listening to, like, this pastor, I think, in the car, and he was saying some words that I'm like, I've literally never heard any of these words in the Bible before. Like, to me, I think that soul tie, at its heart, it's like, I understand what's being said. I think that it's like sort of like the shock and awe, sort of, let me use this language to sort of push the explanation or push, like, the imagery even further for people, like, that this is what's happened to you. I definitely think so. Like, first of all, I would never use the term soul tie. I'm just gonna put that out there. Just hit my microphone. I think the Bible says that when two people come together and they're married, that the two become one flesh. And so there's, like, this unity where it's like, you are no longer on your own. But, like, you were with this person. So, like, I gave this example to this couple that we were doing marriage counseling for the other day. So, like, now in my marriage, like, if I do something that is going to impact Sarah negatively, I'm harming myself. Because, like, we're together in this now. We're collective. We're the same person. And so I think there is something to say that when people are having multiple partners and sleeping with people, there is a transaction that happens that's beyond physical, where it's like they've actually attached themselves to that individual because they have become one in this act of intimacy, whether they've perceived it as an act, whether they've perceived it as just something to have fun with or to pleasure themselves with. Like, there's been this exchange that has happened. Now, that's not to say, though, that can't ever, like, be undone. And I think that there's, like, for, like, the longest time, people have said, like, it's like they've been this whole thing, like, oh, you've done all this, and so, like, you have all these, like, things attached to you, and you can never get that piece of you back or whatever. I mean, we serve a God that he says that, like, his blood covers a multitude of sins. It covers every sin. So to me, it's like that can definitely be undone. But I do think that there is this exchange that does happen when you're constantly having sex with other people.
So is it because the scripture that you referenced said when the two become one in marriage, is it the marriage that makes two become one, that covenant commitment, or is it the consummation of that marriage, or is it the combination?
I think it's a combination of the two. And I think that, well, I mean, even if you look at, like, Old Testament, right, there wasn't always or necessarily a marriage ceremony. Sometimes people just went to a tent and had sex. And that was before God. That was what they had. And so I think, again, it kind of goes back to, like, culture diluting something into what it never was intended to be. And then as a result, like, having to deal with, like, the consequences. Like, we've counseled so many people where it's like they're married now, and every time they have sex with their partner, it's like they think about the other person that they were sleeping with before, or there's like a comparison where it's like, good. Well, this person's not doing it as good as the other person was, and like, but the thing that they're not realizing though is they're attaching like the physical aspect to it, but not realizing there's also a spiritual side. Sure. Mm-hmm. Whereas like that wouldn't even be a thing had they had done like this, like detaching from what they had done previously. And so to me, it's like that stuff doesn't just go away.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I have two things. One, the idea of the soul tie when it was being explained to me when I was like younger kid sounded like a plot line to a Hallmark movie. Absolutely. Where it's just like, oh, you were always meant to be with this one person.
Yeah.
That's the idea that I've had. The other thing too, like you were saying that it doesn't have any, you were looking it up, there's no like concrete evidence that a soul tie is a thing. Like, could it be like a guilt thing that you had something prior to someone else and now you're coming into this new relationship with another person where you're now going to or becoming one through marriage and through consummation, through everything? Could it be like a guilt thing that ties you back to that person, or is it just... Do you get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. I think it's both. Like, to be real with you, I think it's guilt. I think it's shame. I think, and here's the other thing, right? So, like, if I can just be completely honest, like, for the longest time, I keep hitting
this
my microphone.
Jeez,
for the longest time,
it's excited,
especially amongst young people, for the longest time, like, sex and premarital sex, sexuality, all that stuff was like the end all be all sin for young kids and young people.
Yeah.
And so I think that like what would happen was because we magnified this thing so much, if a kid was doing something or a youth was doing something, they would never feel comfortable to talk about it or to have a conversation. And so as a result, like the sin got even more exacerbated and huge as a result of them having to deal with this on their own. And so something that could have been easily sort of like withdrawn from or walked away from with having someone pray for you, have a conversation, get some counseling. Now you're dealing with it in like secret, and like this guilt is just compounding because like you had sex, you're going back to youth group, you're hearing the pastor every Wednesday night telling you that you're going to hell because you had premarital sex. The pastor telling you every Wednesday night that you've attached yourself to this person, now you got demons in your closet and all this other crazy stuff that's happening. And the reality is like at the base of all this, like there is like a thread of truth in all this, but like at the same time though, it's like the solution is much more easy than like the guilt that you're carrying, which is like, let's forgive yourself, ask God to forgive you, and like let's move on because God has bigger and better for you. So I mean, if that helps, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of what I got down to, but that's what it sounded like to me in my head.
So how does I guess the question I was going to ask is like, how do you undo this, whatever we're going to call it, the soul ties? But the question I actually want to ask is,
undo it. Soul ties sounds like a sneaker shop,
a Christian sneaker shop. That would be fire. Yikes. Welcome to Soul Ties. Yikes. We kind of touched on it in like the friend group, being friends with the opposite sex. Being friends with an ex is different.
Yeah. I'm not friends with any of my exes.
So, but yeah, that's fine. I'm saying there's very few things that have like a definitive yes or no. Like, it's not yes or no. Can you be friends with an ex? Is it yes or no?
Here is the nuance. If you are a single individual,
okay,
you have complete permission to make that decision on your own.
If you're a single individual, okay,
If you are a dating individual or a married individual, that decision no longer is up to you by yourself. So I think it's possible. I don't think it's probable.
Nah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like all my exes live in Texas, bro. So I don't have to worry about all that.
Nice. Well done.
Woo, yeah. People like stress. I'm fully convinced that people enjoy being stressed out. To be like, I'm gonna make this work. I'm gonna be friends with my ex, and like that's just why?
I don't even understand, and this is completely off topic. I don't even understand like continuing to follow an ex on social media. Like it's like we were friends and then we broke up, and now like you're still my friend on social media. For me, it's like an automatic. It's like, okay, like we're not going to be following each other's social anymore. You don't need to see what I'm doing. I don't need to see what you're doing.
I get the people will say like, we ended on good terms. Somebody moved to a different country or whatever, and it's like, we're like, I don't want to do long distance. We're like, I get the sentiment. I always understand the sentiment, but I'm just like why?
Yeah,
this can't.
It's just unnecessary.
Yes,
you're adding unnecessary stress and drama to your life.
I'm
that
telling you,
need to
people
be there.
like stress. Mm-hmm. So what do we feel like is the core of being unfaithful? Like, what is the what's the core of being unfaithful? Like, what does it boil down to?
I think it's a violation of trust.
That's good.
That's how I would equate it to myself.
Okay.
Because I am a very trusting person, but very rarely do I give people that opportunity to get to that point. So a violation of trust to me would be unfaithfulness and something that would make me not want to.
So somebody being unfaithful to you is the reason why you would be unfaithful to them.
Yes.
Okay.
It sounds bad. It sounds. I'm trying to make sure. That
no, I get what you're saying.
I would cut them off.
Yeah,
not necessarily just be continually be unfaithful to them as like you did this to me, I'm gonna do this to you.
Yeah,
it's just like that would be enough for me to be like, all right, you don't get the chance to even be faithful. Like,
you don't. No, but we talked about that. But that's protecting yourself more than anything. I'm talking about when somebody is in a relationship, everything is not fine. Everything is seemingly
in the
fine.
Dating relationship,
rainbows and butterflies.
Any relationship. Mm-hmm. There's nothing. There's no like hot point. Like no thing that happened that is causing any dissonance or whatever. And then somebody is unfaithful. Like what would the core behind that? And so I guess I can start with me. I feel like the core would be lack of communication or uncommunicated expectations of the other person. If somebody's not fulfilling my needs in a physical way or an emotional way, or then it's like, I'd go to somebody else that could satisfy whatever, or this or that. If I'm words of affirmation and I haven't communicated that with my spouse, and she's not affirming me with words, then you would go to other people for that feeling. Like, that's my answer is the like uncommunicated expectations or needs from your partner could lead to somebody.
So
being
you're saying
unfaithful.
like the core of what causes unfaithfulness?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I think, I think at the core of unfaithfulness is selfishness.
That's a bar.
I think that, and what is selfishness really rooted in? When we get back to it, the original sin was pride. So I think that's effectively what we're all sort of touching.
The original sin was pride.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just never. Because they wanted to be like God.
And
that's not envy comes from. It's
pride.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I think that.
that's why the pride comes before the fall.
Yep. And that's why Satan fell, because of his pride.
Wow.
There
it is.
Bomb. You have to hit the bomb for that one.
No, I think, but I think that, that's at the core of this all. Like, I think that it's pride, it's selfishness. And not in a way even that you would think like, because there are times like in your relationship where it's like there's self-care is a real thing. You have to take care of yourself.
For sure.
And there's healthy ways to do that, right? You have hobbies. You like to shoot with cameras and do stuff like that. You also like
guns
too as well. Yeah. Don't mess with us. Play soccer on Tuesdays and like what have you. Like, so like, but it gets beyond that when you are doing something that is detrimental to the other person that you're involved with. But also it's like selfishness when, like, again, you're saying like non-communicated expectations. You're choosing not to communicate
Absolutely.
those. And like it's selfish because you're like, because again, it's like, and I think that the other side of it too is you have like, there's like these wandering eyes that happen where it's like, well, if I'm not getting what I want, she or he should just know. And so I'm going to start to shop around and look elsewhere. And like the crazier thing about this is like, cause I've been here 6 years now at the church. Like we've seen people come and go. We've seen different relationships and marriages. And even like at our previous place of ministry, like same situations. And what's interesting is anytime there was like a couple that was together and married and one was unfaithful, ended up cheating and trying to leave this relationship to go to another, they found out that like this one was far more work than this one, because this one was new, it was fresh, but they didn't actually know the person. They hadn't actually gone through things. They hadn't actually established that faithfulness, right? We talked about faithfulness is something that's established. Like, I trust you because you trust me, and there's this back and forth. And so they ended up having more problems in their second relationship than in their first, and ended up being more unhappy in their second relationship than their first as a result of like not fully understanding and having like, they didn't realize the consistency they had in this relationship where like that trust was being built. And even though there was like these moments of lack of communication, it was way more work to go and do this other one. But then again, we talked about this, like people will always look for a way out if they really feel like they want to. Rough. And I think it's our sin nature. And I think that we need to constantly be coming before God and be like, God, give me your heart, give me your mind, and help me to love the person that's standing in front of me.
That's good. All right, last two little talking points. How do you move forward when somebody in your life relationship has been unfaithful? And then the flip side is, how do you move forward when you were the one that was unfaithful? Like, how do you repair that relationship?
This is so hard. I had a conversation with someone the other day about this, actually. If someone were to cheat on, like, at least in a dating relationship, if someone, like friends, you get it. Like, sometimes people have different intentions for why they want to get close to you. Sure. A platform, somebody else, something that could be a reason why someone would get close to you. However, in a dating relationship, for me, like, trust is a very big deal to me.
Yeah.
And if someone were to cheat on me, that not only is that like a fear of mine that I've had that I can openly talk about, but that would be like detrimental to me. That's like a straight up, like, again, like a violation of trust. And that would be very difficult for me to get through, where I would literally have to detach myself. Like, I'm moving to a different state.
Oh my!
I'm out of here.
Oh my! Gosh,
I'm out of here. Like, I can't. I couldn't.
Yeah.
And that's just
sell the farm.
And again, like, I've talked to people about it. I'm trying to, like, it hasn't even happened yet, which is like the craziest part.
That's
but if it were, it's the fear
sure.
of it happening, and how I would react to it is what I'm scared of the most. So that's where I'm at. If someone were to be like unfaithful to me, whether I would be unfaithful to someone else, very, very unlikely.
Yeah.
I would say, just because I try to be as intentional as I can in all of my relationships to make sure that, I am being faithful to them in every manner that I possibly can. Obviously, I think it comes down to a perception thing. If someone were to perceive that I was being unfaithful, that is something completely different that you can like walk through and navigate through and have conversations about. But I don't see myself being unfaithful to someone else.
I think for me, it's like having a mentality that I'm going to have as much as I can consistently grace and mercy for the other person. I think that like because there's whether we want to try to avoid this or not, like there's going to be like levels of unfaithfulness in our lives, whether it's somebody cheating or it's somebody doing something that like hurts you. Yeah. And it was maybe like unfaithful in their emotions or unfaithful in their words or unfaithful whatever. Yeah. And so I think it's having this abundance of grace and mercy. And I think, again, like self-reflection and self-awareness, the Bible says that God remains faithful even when we're unfaithful. It's part of his character. It's part of his nature. Like, we have somebody that we love who is God, who is constantly pursuing us and trying to give us his best. And we are consistently dropping the ball and consistently messing up, but it doesn't change his faithfulness. And so I think for me, when I have that sort of perspective and that mindset where it's like, now in my humanity and dealing with my children, dealing with my wife, dealing with family and the church, like I have to have that mentality that like, I know that there's a potential for failure, but that doesn't have to change what my response is. Yeah. And that response is loving people, being gracious and being merciful, but also understanding that there is a level to where I have to protect myself if it's going to be things that are going to harm me or my family. But my first response can't be trying to write somebody off. My first response has to be love, grace, and mercy. As hard as it is, it has to be that, because that's what God's first response is to us. And so I think that's hugely important in this whole process of that is having that grace, having that mercy, and being able to walk this out with people. Yeah.
It's good. I feel like that's a good place to land it. Right? Like, I feel like how else are we going to?
No, that's
a good place to end it. There.
That's it, man. I just think being consistent and loving people. You would sell the farm. He'd be gone.
He would sell the farm.
You send me a postcard. I'm out.
I don't know. I think he's capping.
What?
I hope
think
he
you're
never
capping.
has to experience
No.
that.
No,
I think he's
I
capping.
pray that I don't have to experience that. But if I do, that's
No, because
hard.
I think you're so. We'll end it in a second. I think you are very community based. And in order for you to process things, you think that you're a recluse and want to go into your room and just dwell on it, but like you need to talk to your people around you. You enjoy talking to your people around you to process things, which is good and a good way to actually heal and recover. You can do that in private, and you can do that with your core. I think you thrive when you do that with your core. So
That's it, bro. Well, I mean, that's
I'm gonna send y'all the Zoom link.
yeah. Send me the Zoom link. He's gonna drop a pin. He's gonna drop the pin
in Wyoming somewhere.
Well, I mean, that's it, man. I mean, faithfulness. It's being trustworthy. It's being consistent. It's loving people. It's having this idea of not commitment but covenant, and trying to be consistently pursuing that, and it be part of your character and who you are. And so, yeah, man, be faithful. Be faithful where you're at, not just in relationships. Be faithful where you're at. Be faithful where God has placed you. And if you don't know what that is,
This guy go to Wadi's cam. He's
Go to
wearing
his
a
camera. There he
faithful
is.
chain. That's ridiculous.
faithful.
Yo, shout out KB.
Shout out KV and Native.
But that, yeah.
yeah.
No, that's it, man. That's all, folks. This has been another exciting episode of Work Week Podcast. Can't wait to see you on the next one. If you have anything that you want us to talk about on the next one, drop them down in the comments. Any topics, we would love to address them. Have a great rest of your day.